Welcome to our session on the Marconi project. This year's Service Leadership Forum is about Product as a Service, PaaS. And we have been researching servitization at the Netherlands Defense Academy and Maastricht University. So right now, many companies are trying to get into the service game and they want to develop network value propositions, but they're still struggling to get everyone on the same page and in the same direction. So I'm conducting this research with Professor Dominique Maar on network value propositions in the maritime sector. So a big challenge is to pick up on data science opportunities, how to make services more data-driven and how to do that in a network and not only within your own organization. The key challenges to be faced. First of all, knowledge is very distributed across organizations and the same applies to resources. Moreover, it's very complicated to cooperate between organizations and to coordinate as well. For instance, if you are contracting, there are many regulations that have to be taken care of. Especially in the maritime sector, organizations are used to reactive services rather than proactive services at the network level. So how to create this win-win-win and to avoid losses of organizations participating in the network? That's a major challenge that we picked up as a team in the Marconi project. Customers are looking for availability of their maritime assets, which are very complicated and they are consisting of a lot of sub-technologies and services. At the same time, suppliers want new service propositions that they can use in different markets. So we studied with a number of partners these challenges. And the partners are the Dutch Navy, the major suppliers, but also Boskalis, Gordian, and academic partners. We focus on the business and organizational challenges to make remote control towers happen. And we have three key areas in our work package: network value proposition, functional obsolescence management, and service control towers. So if you look at these use cases, how can organizations really cooperate in a successful way? Our team focuses on business services. That's the second work package. There are two other ones, one on operations research and one on IT design for remote control towers. And together we want to help companies to develop network propositions together and not alone. So right now I would like to hand over to Dominique Maar to tell you more about the research content that we have been working on.
Thank you, Paul. Let me now share my screen and taking over from you. What we did is to address the challenge that Paul mentioned, we turned to the literature. We wanted to know what the literature can also tell us and help maybe us to find an answer for this network, for the organizations in network. So we turned to the value proposition literature, but we found relatively little on the service, especially on the network level. So what is a network value proposition? How can a network develop continuous service innovation? We looked into the business model literature, and also that was helpful, but it was often there's a focus on the outcome or on the process of developing a business model. We looked into the literature on interorganizational or companies working with practices, with their coordination and cooperation practices. And that is very helpful because these are two key competences. But often we do not find how companies actually use that in sync. And last one, of course, we looked into the servitization literature. And this is very interesting, but sometimes you feel like it is the levels on how organizations servitize and how the innovations are developed on a project level are a bit disconnected. So we wanted to look into this combination. And we believe that all helps us to develop a better network value proposition. So the use case that Paul also mentioned is the focus is on network value proposition, in particular for data science. So we mapped out the process in this use case for service innovation, how that is happening in a network, but also then understanding the organization's interest, but also the network interest. We did that on by using action research, where we, since we're embedded in the project, we have followed this entire project over a long period of time, and then did additional workshops and interviews to fully understand what is happening there. The partners are mainly the Royal Netherlands Navy, Damen, and Arch Marine. So our findings, and I would like to present it in two main steps. So one thing is, what is a network value proposition? And as mentioned before, essentially it's a commitment towards a network purpose by the different organizations, and a commitment also not only by the different actors, so the network, the organization, but also how should we work together. So you can split it into the aim activities of a network. So you see that on the right side as a highest up, the box on the right side, and the uppest one, network script. The second one is then the interaction. How do the different organizations work together? What are the flows between the different organizations? And finally, of course, also, what are the organizations? What do they want? What are their aims? What are their competence? What do they bring in? And what we find is that finding a good agreement on a network value proposition on those three levels is a precondition to develop successfully service innovations. We developed that to make that very also hands-on and very applicable. We developed a number of small, simple scripts. And we're going to show you some of the scripts and how they were used, and also by the organizations. The first one is, that looks very full and a very almost overloaded slide, but I would like to show you that slide, because that is how we actually use that and filled it out also in this entire process. So on the left side is, you see the dimension of such a script. We want to find an agreement on how the network, what is the aim in terms of customer that this network serves, by which goals, so by achieving, through which kind of activities, and who is also performing these activities. The next point is, how should the collaboration be informally and formally be supported? What is the win-win-win situation that we want to create? And what is also long-term vision? If we find an agreement on those, we believe that we actually have a very strong substance on the network level. And just to give you one example, collaboration, for instance, is supported informally by the context between the experts that meet in a combined, we have a separate data science pilot team that is working informally also together. But also formally, the network looks for strategic cooperation agreements, having certain other contractual setups that are there. Next one is then moving to actually the organizational level, and every organization fills also out this commitment. So my organization, in this case, it is one that is saying, then I commit myself to this network around data science, of course, which includes the other partners. And I say that I, as an organization, aim within this network to achieve certain elements, but also beyond this network, there might be certain goals, because of course you can imagine that the network aims to develop, let's say, innovation, but for the organization, it can be also interesting to see how can I develop certain outcomes that are also useful in other areas for other customers. At the same time, what you see on the left side then is that it's also not wants to achieve something, the organization wants to also avoid certain risks that are maybe coming with it. The partner commits himself to involve a number of units and a number of their own employees with certain competences, knowledge, and expertise in place, and with certain resources and assets. At the same time, they also face and they acknowledge the challenges, and they share these challenges that they face in the organization. Potentially also the partner brings in another network, but important is also that we acknowledge the different revenue model that this partner has. And we describe the role also of the partner in this network. So just to give you one example, you see, for instance, the risk that the partner sees is, I see that if the ships are not available and there's an unpredictable performance, that is something, a risk that I want to avoid as this organization by all means. And then the final level is we define here how the organization works together. And it's on a dyadic level. What's interaction? What are the expectations that I have between two organizations within a certain in this network? What are the worries? How does the interaction? What are the norms of interaction? What are the flows of material, financial, and data? And just to exemplify that, between those two companies, Shipco and Eleco, we use identifiers for that, is one is providing sensor data, the other one provides the tools in order to analyze it. So having filled out all these scripts, we already have a good idea of the network value proposition. The second element is then also not saying we have that almost view, the snapshot of what the network, what's the commitment to the network and by the organization. We then move into a more dynamic perspective and say within that, we develop the service innovation. You see the service innovation opportunity in this framework. So within this network, we develop a number of service innovation. For us, in this case, it was an AI-based predictive maintenance system or functionality that we want to develop. And every partner brings in certain resources. And then again, once this is developed, we also have to again reflect, and you see that on the bottom is what's the impact actually again on this network value proposition. So in a nutshell, what we see here, we move from the left to the right in this model from more strategic cooperation to more tactical coordination of different resources. But then we get into a loop where we have to refine again equilibrium in this network's balance, that everybody in this, every actor in this network is happy. To summarize them, or to what we have come, where we have come so far, we developed these scripts, we developed this process, and that is already very helpful and should help any organization that is working in a network to find a shared commitment. So we, in this case, also we have a formal and informal alignment of the partners around the network. And now they're signing also, and that is a big also celebration, and it's formally also celebrated, this strategic agreement. The next step is also developing more innovation, more service design workshops around specific innovation. And then again, we use it to reflect to what extent that potentially also can change and maybe alter the equilibrium in this network. So what is the main takeaway? The goal was to develop this network value proposition. What is in for us and how do we commit ourselves as organization to? And it is, we use this quote by Michael Jordan, and maybe you have seen also the Last Dance, which is a recent series on Netflix, is talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. So what is it for us very important is not only that this one game is a service innovation project. No, we need to provide this entire teamwork around. And that is the one that makes us in the long term also successful. And so we want to find the balance between this specific service innovation, but also it is embedded in the larger service innovation network. We want to thank you for attending and listening and watching our presentation. I want to thank you for all that and invite you to connect with us. And of course, we are more than happy to take on your questions, but also discuss any of those issues. And please feel free to connect. Thank you very much.